Welcome back to another episode of Know Your Legacy. I'm your host, V, and today's guest is Miki Agrawal. Miki is a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of THINX, TUSHY, and Eat, Drink, Wild. She's also a powerful speaker and author. Her recent book is called Disrupt Her, a manifesto for the modern woman, but it's also equally as applicable to men as well. The book's been backed by powerhouses like Marianne Williamson, Jack Canfield, John Mackay, and so many others. It's a pleasure to have you on, Miki. Thank you so much for being here.
Yay, happy to be here.
Most definitely. I think it was a long time coming for me, because we were saying off air, like when I first read about your involvement with Alex in The Third Door, that's when I really found out about you and your story. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Another like Asian person who's as successful as I hope to one day be. So it's crazy to think like the journey that you've been on, where you are now, and your background as well is really unique, isn't it? It's like half Japanese and half Indian. So I was like, that's not something you hear about every day.
Are you entrepreneurial too? Like, what's your dream?
It's to speak and to write, basically to inspire people through this podcast. So I think I'm still going through the journey of figuring it out exactly. Like I'm 26, so I'm just like, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know I want to write, because one of the things actually is for doing this podcast, I think I've learned so much more about what legacy actually means. It's not something that's sort of at 60 years old and then you think about retirement and what you want to do for your kids. It's something that you live every single day. You figure out the mission, you execute on it, and you're living it. That's what you're doing right now. And when I was looking for information from what these people were saying, it was just like, there isn't a book that showcases that. Like, what does legacy mean? How do you live it? And people in history, the collective individuals from different generations, how did they create a legacy? They certainly didn't do it through just going through the schooling system, graduating, and then putting a diploma on the wall, and that's it. Like they went out and made some sort of an impact. And it's like, well, all of these stories are sort of dispersed and lost in history, and whether you come across them or not, it's not really dependent on you. It's dependent on if there's someone out there to teach you. But if it was put in a book and it was told to you in school, then, I don't know, like it could change a kid's thinking, because at that age, your brain is still very much malleable. So yeah,
cool. Fun.
Interesting. But yeah, so I guess the first thing before we go into your whole story is just like, I know you recently got married, so congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, we got married like a long time ago at Burning Man, which is a festival, but that was 3 days of 3 days in from really getting to know each other. We were like, let's get married. And so we've been Burning Man wed for many years. We got married in like the real world. Yeah, just recently.
Yeah. I heard actually you said in one of the other conversations you're having that you said that rather than having like a typical wedding, you wanted to have a love festival. So is that what you were referring to, or did you actually set something else up?
No. We had a love festival. The wedding was a love festival where the idea was we got 250 people together of our closest family and friends, and the idea was that everyone comes in and falls deeper in love with themselves and each other when they leave. And so it's not necessarily just about like us and our wedding, but it's really about deepening their own love experience. It was great.
Yeah. How are other people involved in that then?
Just like, doing different, like, so every day so it was 3 days, and we had things like a talent show on one night where everyone to come, we picked, 25 of our most talented friends and just had them get up on stage and share their talents. And it was just like singing, dancing, acting, like all the most epic stuff. So it was a fun, variety talent show. And then we had an Indian ceremony, and then we had a sort of everything else ceremony, like sort of like the white dress pagan ceremony. But then in the mornings we had like yoga, and we had like 5 rhythms dancing, ecstatic dancing. We had just all these fun moments where people got to deepen with themselves and with each other. And it was like I said, it was a 3-day love festival. So it wasn't just a 1-day wedding.
A typical, no, I love that, because the more I looked into the sorts of things you're doing, like your book is a reflection of literally who you are, because you're applying that to every area of your life. Like you're not allowing anything to stay stagnant. So I mean, before we get into the book and everything that you've sort of mentioned and written in there, if you can just sort of peel back some of the layers of your background and what it was like growing up, sort of half Japanese and half Indian, because that's a unique mix that you don't see every day.
Yeah. So I grew up in Montreal, Canada, to a Japanese mother and to an Indian father from India. And my, like I grew up like in Montreal with a sister who's 11 months older and an identical twin sister. So we were born, three of us within 1 year, together, so Irish triplets. And it was, a really interesting upbringing because we had so many cultures and so much diversity just by being born in Montreal, being half Japanese, half Indian, and being really immersed in all cultures. I just feel like we had a different, unique perspective, especially, just on and lens on into the world. When we were 11 years old, our parents took out a $30,000 loan and took us to India and Japan, and really got to see the rest of the world, got to see poverty, really depths of poverty for the first time. Because growing up in Canada, you can grow up really insularly and not know what's out there. But, my parents decided to take a chance and take out a big loan for our family, especially at the time. My father's an engineer salary. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, raising us. And it was one of those interesting, like, transformative experiences. It took them 10 years to pay off the loan. But it just, I think it was such all the different colors onto the canvas. I think about Canada and our cultural sort of upbringing as a mosaic of cultures, where it creates this sort of like this mosaic of art and culture and perspective that forms this sort of beautiful art piece. And so growing up, we played soccer. I was a huge soccer player. My twin sister and I and my older sister all played soccer. Our dad was our coach. Our mom was our assistant coach. We really took it very seriously. And I think it's that experience that really taught us, obviously, the importance of teamwork, of picking yourself up after every time you fell and you're going against an opponent and one-to-one, and then having to, either win or lose that play and having to get your head back in the game. Just like that whole thing was just ingrained in us from age 4 to 30 plus years old. And so I went to, I decided, my twin sister and I decided to go to college in the United States after my older sister also left Montreal to go to school in Boston. And when we got a taste of freedom without Asian parents, it was a really unique, fun thing where we got to, just deepen our social sort of understanding of the American way of doing, just seeing the world again from a different lens. And so I think when we graduated from college, got a job in investment banking, one of the first formative experiences of mine was 9/11, where 9/11 was, one of those days. I mean, I'm sure, how old were you at 9/11? Probably.
I think I was like
6 or something.
Oh,
11.
I think it was 10 or 11 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 or 11. I just turned 22 and graduated from college, and I did a 2-year, a 2-month training program for Deutsche Bank in investment banking. And my subway stop every single morning was 2 World Trade Center. I would basically go to 2 World Trade Center, go up to 2 World Trade. Like, there was a cafe there, and get tea with my girlfriend who worked on the 100th floor of 2 World Trade, and then I would walk across the street to my office. And 9/11 happened, and 700 people in my girlfriend's office died on that day, and 2 people in my office died on that day. It was one of those, and every one of my friends had stories of like sprinting underneath cars and just missing, raining of shrapnel and metal falling from the skies that was killing, so many people. And it was just one of those crazy, bizarre, weird times. And it was the first and only day in my life that I slept through my alarm clock. And, never before, never after, from that day, since that day, have I ever slept through my alarm clock. And it was sort of a divine moment for me, where I really, truly realized and recognized that the mystery of life is you never know when it's going to end. And that the time was absolutely now in that moment to make it count. And so I wrote down 3 things I wanted to do with my life. One was to play soccer professionally. The second was to make movies. And the third was to start a business. And, you know, very quickly, kind of fast, you know, moving quickly through this story, you know, I basically tried out for the New York Magic soccer team that were holding tryouts in Brooklyn and New York, and, you know, made the team, made the starting lineup, was offered to quit my investment banking job. But then first game of the season, within the first 8 minutes of my professional career, right after I crossed the ball, you know, and assisted a goal, you know, this woman came and we did a slide tackle and took my leg out, and I heard that telltale snap and tore my ACL. And so I had to, you know, stay in my investment banking job, get the very best health insurance, and then come back out again and try out for the team again, made the team again, made the starting lineup again, and then tore my other ACL in the semifinal game. And so it was sort of a universe telling me that that wasn't my calling, and then went to the next thing on my list, which was to make movies. And I dusted off my film resume. I'd spent my summers in college working for the guys who produced Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin and all these silly movies. And you know, basically got a job working on sets of commercial and music videos, and very quickly realized that I didn't want to have a 9-to-5 job. And so I quit and became a freelance production person, and was just kind of picking up odd jobs, you know, picking up trash from directors and driving, you know, producers around and getting coffee and tea and doing all this stuff. After, like, my Asian parents were like, "What are you doing? You know, you have a Cornell degree," you know, and it was a whole thing. But very quickly worked my way up to producing commercials and music videos. And then it was during that time when I had my first idea for my business, which was born out of a stomach ache. And on sets of commercials and music videos, there would be these tables called craft service tables, where you would have this free food where, you know, you would just have pigs in the blanket, which is like hot dogs. And there would be like all this garbage processed food, cheese and like bread and, you know, processed meats and like M&Ms, all this crap. And you would just, for me, my favorite price was free. At the time, I had student loans to pay off. And so I was just eating all this free shit. And then I would go home and have these awful stomach aches. And finally I was like, what the F is happening to me? And I went to Google and I researched it and discovered, like, whoa, the massive processed food industry, discovered that there was, you know, antibiotics and pesticides and preservatives and hormones and all the food that we were eating and causing so many intolerances in people. And so this is when the ding, ding, ding idea hit. You know, as I was researching, I discovered the pizza industry is a $32 billion industry, and Americans eat 100 acres of pizza every single day. And I was like, wow, you know, like, this food, clearly America loves this food, but it's made with bleached flour and processed cheese and sugar-filled sauces and processed toppings. People just did not feel good after eating this food. Like, I knew that I had to give it up because I would kept getting bloaty and farty and gassy and, you know, diarrhea-y, and it was just bad. And decided, I was like, oh my God, ding, ding, ding. My first business idea was born in that moment. And I was like, I'm going to create New York City's very first like alternative pizza concept, you know, gluten-free flours, hormone-free cheeses, local seasonal toppings, organic, local when possible. It's like all of the terms that I was researching was sort of like still nascent. Nobody was talking about organic, local, gluten-free, farmers table like back and then. And, but I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go do this. And, you know, I wrote up my first book, Do Cool Shit, around, you know, the subtitles, Quit Your Day Job, Start Your Own Business, and Live Happily Ever After. And I wrote it as I built my first business, you know, Slice, it was called at the time, and now it's called, you know, rebranded to Wild. And it was such a crazy experience of figuring out how to raise money, figuring out how to build the thing at all, like figuring out how to operate, how to get press, how to just every startup thing you can think of. You're like, how the F do I do this stuff? And so, you know, having made a ton of mistakes, having grown from that experience, I wanted to put pen to paper and wrote the book, Do Cool Shit, to really kind of pull back the curtain on exactly what I did to get my first investor, investors, to get press for the first time, to get the New York Times to come and cover my little tiny restaurant, you know, how I came up with the idea at all and what I did to get people to really support the business, and, you know, just the whole journey, what happened when I screwed up, like how to come out of that. And, you know, just all the things, how to find the right friends to really hold you accountable when you're going through that tough times and the good times, just everything you need to really drive, you know, the best sort of successful option for yourself. And after the restaurants, you know, brought in a partner to run the businesses for me. And I really learned a tough lesson there, which was, you know, bring on people who are better than you at doing the thing instead of doing everything yourself. Because I operated my own restaurant for 6 years, and it was so hard. It was so painful, almost 7 years. And as soon as I brought in my partner, within 1 year of him taking over within one week of him taking over the restaurants, our numbers doubled. And within 1 month, our numbers tripled. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy and unfortunate that I've had to spend all these years trying to figure it out for myself, when I could have brought in an amazing person to do the operations, the finance, like the team, like running the piece, while I can do the creative, the marketing, the PR, the sort of like the big vision, you know, piece. I think when you find that right person, you can really create magic together. And so once I brought in Waleed, who's amazing, it freed up my time to start my next business, which was also born out of necessity. You know, running from one restaurant to another, I would forget to change my tampon and pad. And it was such a, you know, like frustrating experience every month on my period. I would just be like, oh my God, this is so messy. It's just so frustrating. And it was really at my family barbecue called Agrapalooza that we came up with this next business idea. And my twin sister Radha and I were defending our 3-legged race championship title. And in the middle of the race, my twin sister started her period. And we had to like sprint through the finish line, still tied to each other, up the stairs to the bathroom, and so she can change out her bathing suit bottoms. And while I was while she was washing blood out of the bathing suit bottoms, is when the idea hit. Oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to create a pair of underwear that never leaked, that never stained, that supported women every day of the month? And so, you know, fast forward a few years later, I was still working in the restaurants. So then fast forward to finally when I found my partner, we were able to sort of like revive this business idea in 2011, brought in our third co-founder, Antonia, and the three of us really started working on the product and the technology and creating this, you know, the first period proof underwear product that was going to take tampons and pads by storm and really disrupt the $15 billion feminine hygiene category that hadn't been touched in many years. In, you know, had only 3 major innovations in the entire 20th century. And you know, really built this company, had a hockey stick growth. You know, I talk a lot about the strategies to you know, to scale the business, you know, in my presentations, and basically, you know, grew the business from nothing to, you know, a valuation of well over 150 million in, you know, just 3 short years, which was really a wild ride, because you just never expect that to ever happen, ever, you know, when you're just like immigrant's daughter, you know, who came here with $5 in his pocket, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're on this like, you know, wave that you're just holding on for dear life. Just like, wow. Like, it was just such an incredible thing. You know, we had a really big viral moment when the New York City public transit system denied our ad campaign from being in the subways, because they said, you can't say the word period on the subways. And we were like, oh my God, in the most progressive city in the world, we can't talk about periods, but we can talk about breast augmentation. We can talk about the Museum of Sex. We can talk about erectile dysfunction. But then you talk about a woman's period, it's considered taboo and shameful. And so that really opened up the can of worms, which really kind of made this viral moment for us and put us on the map, which was really powerful. And, you know, grew the business, and then stepped down as CEO in a year and a half ago, and then started my newest business, which is called TUSHY. And TUSHY was also born of a pain point. As an half Indian person, half Japanese person, I grew up knowing about bidets. Bidets, which is a thing that simply sprays your butt nice and clean, precisely. And I always never understood why, you know, we use water to clean our bodies. We use water to wash dirty dishes. We use water to clean our, like, you know, our clothes, our car, everything we have, we use water. And the minute you step into the bathroom and you have to deal with the dirtiest part of your body, your butt, you use dry paper. And that is just completely deep indoctrination that led us to do this. It's complete pure marketing that led us to wipe our butts with dry paper and believe, like led us to believe that it's clean, and it's not. It's causing 30 million combined cases of chronic urinary tract infections, hemorrhoids, anal fissures, anal itching, exacerbates all of those things. Wet wipes do not do the trick. Not only do wet wipes clog toilets, but are bad for the environment, but they also strip away the natural oils from your behind, creating anal fissures over time. And you know, toilet paper is just, you're flushing down 15 million trees per year to make toilet paper. A new study came out showing that the average American uses 3 rolls of toilet paper per week. You know, it's insane, because you're just, you know, it's like wrapping around your hand and just like trying not to touch the poop, and it's a whole thing. And there was just an obvious hole in the market. There was obviously a need to disrupt. You know, toilet paper was brought to America in 1890. You know, we have technology. We're talking on a Zoom call over the internet halfway across the world, and yet the minute we step into our bathrooms, poof, back in the 1800s. And why? Because once again, it's taboo. It's shameful. Nobody wants to talk about it. Therefore, no one's innovating in it. And so there's a real opportunity to create the best-in-class, affordable, modern bidet called TUSHY, which easily clips onto your existing toilet. So it's not this weird standalone French thing that you have to shimmy over with your poopy butt to clean it. It's not those very expensive $2,000 Japanese bidets that you have to, you know, spend thousands of dollars installing it and buying it, installing it, and then plumbing and electrical and all the things. The product that I started called TUSHY, by the way, go to hellotushy.com. Do not go to tushy.com. It's a very graphic porn site. Go to hellotushy.com. You know, that it simply clips onto your existing toilet and turns any toilet into a bidet in less than 10 minutes. It's only $69. It's so affordable to the masses. You know, I do a lot of talking on disruptive innovation. And when you think about, you know, things like the horse and buggy, you know, before cars came into the picture, the horse and buggy was the main form of transportation. And cars did exist for very rich people, but never existed for the masses because it was never affordable. But only when the Model T car came available did it become a mainstream thing, because the masses could afford it. Same thing when it came to bidets. Like, people cannot afford $1,000 bidets plus those French plumbing things, but spending $69 and explaining why it's such a benefit value add for your wallet. You save thousands of dollars in your lifetime by using a bidet. You're saving the planet. You're saving 15 million trees per year that are getting flushed down. These boreal forests in Canada are getting wiped down, decimated by just for creating toilet paper that doesn't properly clean you. You're saving your health and hygiene. It's just an all around cleaner, beautiful experience. You're more confident. You feel more sexy. It's just duh. And so that's the product I'm working on right now. It's called TUSHY. And, you know, we're also fighting the global sanitation crisis. For every TUSHY bidet sold, we're building clean sanitation facilities for families in India. And, you know, we've helped to date now almost 50,000 families gain access to clean sanitation. So we're really trying to shed light on the global sanitation crisis at the same time. So yeah, I mean, those are the big businesses that I've started. And then, you know, through that wrote my book, Disrupt Her. And, you know, if you have questions around that, we'd love to share. That's a long-winded story of my life.
No, I love it because it gives people an idea of where you came from and, you know, what the journey was actually like. So what was in terms of the first business that you started, what was that actual age that you started that?
25.
Wow. Yeah. So
25.
Yeah. So at 25, obviously you said you didn't really have all of the answers. So what are the first steps that someone has to really take to start something? Like, obviously now you've got the experience, so you know who to reach out to or what to do first and what not to do. But if someone's 25 or whatever age they are, but they just don't have the knowledge. All right, I've got this idea. Now what?
Yeah. So the first thing to do is to really ask yourself 3 questions before starting any business, because it's so important to really feel like, okay, I'm on the right track here, because otherwise you'll lose interest fast. It won't work. And it's not something that you're going to want to do. So the 3 questions I talk about in my first book, Do Cool Shit. First question is, what sucks in my world? What sucks in my world? It has to start with me. It has to be a true pain point in society. It can't just be like, I want to start a t-shirt company. I want to start another shoe company, it's another thing that makes, it's one of many. Like, I want to start a one of one solution that solves a true pain point in life. So what sucks in my world? Let's just start with me. For me, having stomachache sucked in my world. I couldn't eat my favorite comfort food, pizza, back in 2005. What sucked in my world? Having period accidents every single month, forgetting to change my tampon and pad, having a messy experience sucked in my world. Having a dirty butt sucked in my world, Question number 2, does it suck for a lot of people? We often, think like, oh, I'm running into this problem. It's something that I have to deal with, but it's not really a problem for a lot of people. And then you don't have a market. But all of a sudden you're talking to people, oh, wow, you eat gluten-free. Oh, wow, you get stomach aches when you eat gluten. Oh, when you eat processed food, when you eat dairy, you eat, it's like, oh, wow. So like 20% of Americans are eating gluten-free, dairy-free. Like, there's a market for this. People want pizza, but they can't find it. So there's an opportunity. Wow. Every woman has raised their hands. If you ask them, have you ever had a leak and accident on your period? Okay. Yes. So there's a market. Has every woman, like 30 million people have had issues down there when they're going to the bathroom, or feel really icky and gross, or they jump in the shower after they go to the bathroom, or feel dirty. Pretty much everyone doesn't have a bidet or doesn't properly wash. It's a pain point. And especially for those who want to also save the planet, it's a real pain point. It's just like waste, these things. So what sucks in my world? Does it suck for a lot of people? And the third question is, I think the most important, can I be passionate? Can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really long time? It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And people are like, wow, thanks, TUSHY just popped up out of nowhere. It's like, no. We've been working on it for a really long time. There's this like fizzy drink called LaCroix that you see everywhere now, and La Croix or whatever. And it's been around for 30 years and only had its first major pop last year. And people just don't know that. They're like, wow, they just like had a lucky break. It's like, no, they've been chipping away. Most companies have been around for 10, 12 years before they have their big lucky break. And so you have to really be willing to sit in the discomfort of this idea for at least 10 years. And if you're like, I don't feel like doing this for 10 years, then it's probably not going to work. And if you're in it just to sell it, to have an acquisition because you want to make a lot of money, likely it's not going to work either, because that means you're not really passionate about solving it. You just want to make money. People can feel the authenticity and the motivation for people. And some people work for a few people, sure, but for the most part, like over 80% of businesses fail, because there's one of those things aren't present. So including being undercapitalized is one of the biggest reasons. And so step 1 is to really ask yourself these questions. Once you really believe that you have a one-of-one idea that solves a pain point for yourself or others, then you have to really like create the product. You have to actually do a little prototyping. You have to do a little testing. You have to see like, you have to go to type in prototyper, and like, or get the product design. Right now you can go to Upwork and find a product designer to develop your product. If it's a digital product, same thing. You can also go to Alibaba, just find a manufacturer that can make the thing, and then once you do, you then have to build a website, and you have to build a business, get your LLC formed, or C Corp or S Corp. I always start with an LLC before I raise money, and then turn it into a C Corp afterwards when you're raising money, because most investors want to invest in C Corps. But initially LLC, you're always in the beginning of a business, you're pretty much like not making money. And so LLCs are pass-through taxation system. So if your company's operating at a loss, then that passes on to your tax return. So you get to see the loss on your tax return. So it's actually beneficial for a startup, just first start being an LLC, and then becoming a C Corp when you raise money. So, you know, forming the business, then getting the right product, you know, testing in the market, you know, as good as you can. Just, you know, starts with yourself. Be like, I love this product. And if the product is, then it's not good enough yet. You do have to have an MVP, but you do have to have a solid product before you launch it. Yeah, so then, you know, once you have the solid product and you have the website, then, you know, then you have to really start fundraising for it. And now there are so many places to raise money. You know, there's AngelList, there's, you know, you could even do crowdfunder, like you actually online crowdfunding, because crowdfunding has been decentralized. And so you can do online crowdfunding as well, which really, really makes things a lot easier than when I first started, when none of this existed. You can do Kickstarter campaigns. Kickstarter back then did not exist either. And, you know, I had to do like all of the fundraising, like finding random people in the street who I thought had extra pocket change, being like, excuse me, you want to come to my investor event? You know, but now you don't have to do that, because a lot of those clusters of angel groups exist. You can literally type in like Angel Group New York City, or Angel Group London, you know, VC Fund London or New York, and you know, then you can find the right funds. And if you want to put together an investor presentation, I would highly recommend, you know, Googling Guy Kawasaki 10 slides. And it's ugly from a design aesthetic perspective, but from a what your investor deck needs to have: competitors, value proposition, you know, like all of the things, why now, like just the marketing plan, like all the things that you need to show an investor to raise capital. You can pretty much get that set up from Guy Kawasaki's 10 slides. If you just Google that, you'll be able to pull it up right away, and it's free to download. You just have to change the aesthetic. It's really ugly. And then using that, you can try and raise capital. You can also join an accelerator or an incubator, which can help your idea. You can look up like Y Combinator, just type it accelerator or incubator, so you can really have something hold your hand if you have a really great idea but don't know where to begin. And then you have to like really market it. And you know, you can literally YouTube how to create an ad campaign on Facebook, how to create an ad campaign on Instagram. And you can literally learn Ads Manager pretty handily and build it that way. So, you know, you have to start, you know, a lot of it on your own, but then as you scale the business and you see traction, you can start bringing people in. You start raising capital. You can start, you know, doing all the things you need to do to grow it. But that's really the steps I would take.
I know you had a bit of a challenge when it came to, I think it was THINX, because some of the investors were like, oh, I'm going to take it home and test it with my wife and my daughter and see what they think. But obviously you had a bit of pushback because some of the women, it was new to them. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I'd rather have something that I've been using this whole time. So how do you know when to stop an idea because it's bad, because you've taken other people's point of view into consideration, or to keep pushing through because you're that confident?
Because like when you're talking to men who are investors and they don't understand the pain point for women, when you're like, you know, on your period when you leak, they're like, no, I don't know. But for women, it's like, do you know when you have a period and have a leak? They're like, oh my God, yes. Oh, you have another solution for me? Oh my God. Like, I knew that for myself and for my friends and for everyone I talked to, they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. There are millions of women out there too who would never bleed in their underwear, who find that to be weird and gross. Okay, but what they have to remember is they bleed in their underwear anyway if they have a leak. They have a leak, they're gonna have accidents anyway. So you might as well leak into a pair of underwear that won't leak through your underwear, that will protect you from having messiness everywhere. And so it's just a state of mind, and it's a cultural shift Like people are like, I will never spray my butt with water. And you're like, but you wash your whole body and everything else with water. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to spray poop everywhere. It's just going to spray poop. And you're like, no, no, no. It pulls the poop down into the bowl. Ew, you're spraying my butt with dirty toilet water. You're like, no, no, no. It's not dirty toilet water. It's pulling from the wall, the same water you brush your teeth with. You're trying to, like, you're running them through all of their reasons why they want to stay exactly where they are. And people don't like change. We are creatures of habit. We do not like change. And so because of that, we're just going to put down all the new ideas until finally they're like, oh my God, I had a leak again. Oh my God, like I have a UTI again, or I have friggin' like stinky butt again, you know, or I have like, you know, I feel gross. Like I have like a skid mark in my underwear and it's fucking disgusting, you know, or like, you know, that bacteria that forms down there does form that the excess rubbing, it does create issues over time. And so as more and more people are like, oh wait, I do need another solution, they will then start to look for this. They're like, oh my God, I heard about this company TUSHY. Oh my God, I'm just gonna try it. It's only $69. I'm gonna try it. The minute they try it, they're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. I can't believe I can't go back to dry, disgusting toilet paper. I cannot believe like what I was doing before. Like it was just, it's like the comments and the response is just like the biggest critics become the biggest advocates. And the way I talk about like shifting culture, because that's how you build businesses in taboo categories, is like the goal is you're trying to get people over to the edge, peering over the edge. Should I jump? Should I try it? Should I do it? I don't know. It looks weird. It's unknown. I can't see. I don't want to. And eventually a couple people are like, fuck it. I can't deal with what I'm doing now. I'm going to try it. I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try it. And as more people start jumping off, they all start shouting, come down. It's amazing. And then more and more and more people will jump off and more people jump off. And so it just becomes easier and easier and easier over time to shift culture as more and more people are like seeing like sort of like, you know, getting to the other side and being like, I cannot believe what my life was like before. And so it's just like, that's why like the companies who really stand the test of time, who are well capitalized, who aren't just spending their money willy-nilly praying for an exit, you know, are building their companies responsibly, are the ones that are going to win in the end, because they really are solving a pain point. They're waiting for society to really catch up. And eventually that will become the societal norm. Like wiping your butt with dry paper wasn't that way. It only started in the late 1900s. In the late 1800s is when toilet paper was brought to America. And before that, people were using other methods, you know, like cloth, like you know, different types of thing to wipe. In the same way, like eventually when TUSHY and bidets become ubiquitous, people are going to be like, oh my God, remember when we used to use dry paper? Like, what were we thinking? You know, and so it's going to happen, you know, it's just a matter of when, and it's a matter of who. And we really believe we have the right product, the right aesthetic, the right design, the right price point to really get people there.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that you have to come at it from an authentic point of view. As you said, like you're actually trying to bring a solution to the market and help people and give them a reason to actually open their wallet and pay you, rather than just saying, oh, like, look at me, you know, and draw attention to yourself because you think it's a good idea. And what I learned early on from doing all of the personal development stuff and speaking to a lot of people similar to yourself is you need to really come at it from a point of view of providing value. That's literally what it comes down to, because if they feel like there's a reason to come to you and not anyone else, then they will do it. It's like, if you're hungry, you're going to go and buy food. And if you're craving a certain dish and someone provides it, then you will spend money with them because they're providing something that you actually want, rather than someone else saying, oh, no, you should try this, but you're not in the mood for it. You're not going to really have it. You're going to have a bit more of a tough time having that compared to the
Hello? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah, okay, cool. We're still rolling anyway. But yeah, I think if you just provide value, that's when people will actually will come to you. And you've done that with every single one of your businesses. You're actually providing a solution to something that people are facing in their daily life. So through everything you're saying, obviously you've disrupted each of those markets in very big ways. What are some of the darker moments or darker days that you had trying to do that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to shift culture, you know, people are going to try and burn you for witchcraft and call you names and try and like take you down and try and, you know, just discredit, you know, what you're doing, because, you know, if this is society, they're trying to maintain its form, and then you see people are disrupting it, trying to shift everyone together, you know, the society is going to just be like, nope, we're going to try and cut you out before you move all of us. And for sure, I've definitely experienced that in from start to finish, you know, raising capital all the way to, you know, press, you know, all of it has been a really fascinating experience to really see what happens when you are trying to disrupt society, when you are trying to shift culture, what can happen. But it's just like, it only gives me more resolve when you go through really challenging times to be like, oh wow, I'm on the right path, because it's making people uncomfortable to talk about these things, making people want to like really call you names and try and discredit what you're trying to do, which is really to help humanity. It's really to liberate women, to liberate people. Like my goal has always been to really actually, you know, open up the conversation, to liberate humans from these weird old societal preconceptions that aren't serving us. And I think it's just a matter of time before society catches up to that.
And that's a good segue into the book, because I know you talk about that a lot in each of the 13 things that you bring up. But before we go into them and you explain them, the mark at the front of the book, that red mark, is that supposed to represent a period stain?
No, it's supposed to represent, I mean, it can, it's whatever you want it to be, but it's supposed to represent blood, sweat, and tears, which is what required for, it's blood. It is blood. You know, it could be period blood, but it could be also just the blood that's required to disrupt. You know, if you're disrupting society, you're disrupting really heavily ingrained, you know, preconditioned thoughts that people believe as truth. And you're trying to be like, no, that's just a belief. It's not truth. It can be met with so much pushback. I mean, look at religion. If anyone who's trying to fight religion, or just be like, are you sure you believe in everything word for word, you know? And they're like, yes, and fuck you for not, you know, like, and so it's just a matter of like, everyone is entitled to their belief systems, but there are some that are so deeply ingrained to society, like the concept of money. You know, money is such a weird, touchy subject for people, that people feel really tacky about talking, because societally, you know, men have gained the power and the money is only being talked behind closed doors where deals are being made. And so talking about it in a public setting is considered taboo. So only a few people can have power. I mean, it's a whole thing, but it has become societally taboo to talk about it publicly in a group setting. And all it's doing is it's keeping people down. And so the idea is that like, hey, money is literally a made up energy exchange that we have agreed to is worth something, but it's literally paper. Like we can agree that this mug is like now the value exchange. And if I give you this mug, you're going to give me food, you know? And like, we decide that a new thing, it's like crypto. It's like now all of a sudden we're going to make this new thing called crypto. And that's going to be a thing where we exchange. And then it's a new thing and it's blah, blah, blah. Like everything is just a made up exchange that people have decided is worth something. It's valuable. And so if we really think about like everything in our lives, from money to our career, how we have to follow a career path, you know, and how like, this is just the way it is. Like you think about Michael Jordan, who played basketball. I talk about that in my book, Disrupt Her, how like Michael Jordan was like, is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And the minute he went to go and try his hand at, professional baseball, which is a feat in of itself, or like one of the top basketball players to now become a freaking professional baseball player, he then gets like name called and shit talked and like the worst press of all time. Stick to basketball, loser. Like the greatest player of all time in this sport was just like condemned for trying something else, because people just want to pigeonhole people into one thing. And it's like if you go through becoming a doctor, and yes, like when I had my operations, I don't want like some actor operating on my knee, and like, but I also understand that like, if there's a doctor who goes to medical school and who decides and becomes a doctor and decides he doesn't want to be a doctor here, he doesn't want to be a doctor anymore, why does he or she have to remain in that profession? Because it's now like in society, they're now the doctor. And if you change, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You're a doctor. You're safe. You have money. You're this, you've that. It's like, but I have one life to live. What if I don't like it anymore? What if I don't want to do it? It's so almost impossible to go and do something else for so many people. And, it's like that in relationships. Like, we live in a world where monogamous relationships is the way it is. I live in a monogamous relationship happily, for 8 years. But those who are in polyamorous relationships are different. They're like shunned for like, what are you doing? Back in the day, gay couples, different type of, what are you, what? And just like, who says? Who is society? Why have we decided that what they've said is the way it is? It's not. It was just made up and now passed down. And that's what we've just espoused to as like a belief system, but none of it is true. And so it's like, we think about when we march along borders, and there's these like imaginary borders on our planet where there's this like weird piece of paper that you're like, this is a passport that gets you across these imaginary borders. And there are these people wearing these costumes, marching along these borders with guns that they're also, you're just like, when you actually realize that it's all made up, you're like, this is so silly. And this is so like ridiculous. And we can shift all of it. The concept of the patriarchy and how women are fighting the patriarchy and raising their fists. And while I understand we've birthed men and oftentimes men turn on oppressed women, that feels very strange. But like, men are also victims of patriarchy too. Like, men have been taught to be this way in this current system that we've all grown up with too, men and women. And so for us to like raise our fists at men today, it's like, should we be raising our fists at the men in the Neolithic times who decided that when they divided the land and claimed land and started creating this sort of like power structure where women became like sort of their property, where their offspring was basically, like decided like who now tends to my land that belongs to me. Like, that's where the patriarchal really preconditioning began. And today it's like, women want, oftentimes, don't we want men sometimes who have money, who have power, who are kind of a bad boy. Like, we like, if a guy's too nice, we're like, he was too nice, boring. It's just like, we have been led to want the James Dean, like, kind of bad boy thing too. And so it's like we're all participants in this patriarchal culture. And like, we can't just like raise our fists to men who've also been taught that this is the way girls will like me if I'm kind of a bit of a dick. Like, so it's kind of like, we have to all take responsibility for ourselves and talk about the patriarchy in a new way without being outraged about it. Like, women can't, like, we can't even have a conversation about patriarchy amongst women, because the minute you're like, I don't know if I espouse to like feminism in the way you do, or patriarchy in the way you do, all of a sudden it's this like major cat fight. Oh, you don't support women. Oh, you're this, and oh, you're that. You don't define yourself as a feminist. And I just been on the receiving end of like this crazy ass, like, Miki is unfeminist. And I'm like, I just don't define myself as anything because they're all made up. And I'm just me. And I'm existing and floating through society. I just want to make the world better and freer and like happier, creating products that help people. And like, you can define me and call me whatever you want to call me, but I'm just going to go and do my own thing. Like, and so it's kind of like that. And I feel like this book is really about like looking at 13 areas of our lives, like our career, like our purpose, like money, like the patriarchy, like feminism, like all of these subject matters are fraught with connotation. The takedown culture, the girl on girl hate, hard to talk about today because of this whole thing. It exists. The girl who wear the Futures Female t-shirts are often the most meanest of mean girls, and so it's like, it's also like, the concept of the more stuff equals a better life. Like, it's just like, we've been indoctrinated to believe the more shit we have, like, the more like notoriety we have, the more, the more of the smoke and mirrors means that we're happier. Therefore it's just like this whole weird system that we've been indoctrinated to believe. So it's like, let's pull back the curtain on everything. Let us decide and choose for ourselves with our own agency, what feels good, what feels right, what feels authentic to ourselves in every aspect of our lives. Like, where are we lit up? Where do our eyes light up in all of the aspects of our lives where we feel like we can be fully expressed, fully in our truth, operating as powerfully as possible, making a fuck ton of money because you're actually operating from a place of pure integrity and authenticity. Because the more you operate from that place, the more money you'll actually make, because more people want to follow you because they're more inspired by you. It's actually a spiraling effect. The more you are rid and free of the fear and how you should think and how you should be, and oh my God, get in line and I have to obey. The more you're rid yourself of that, the more actually like more abundance you will have. So that's really what this book is about. It gets you into that place of pure abundance, but doing it in a place of pure authenticity and like self-worth, self-love, self-alignment.
I really want to high five you right now if we could, because like every day when I wake up and I'm going about my day, I'm literally seeing the world in that way. Like I feel like I'm literally looking through the world through a window, and I'm outside the window because I'm just like, you guys don't get it. Like it's, as I was walking one day, I realized I tend to have really deep philosophical thoughts, and my conversations end up going in that direction. So only a select few people think I'm sane. But I mean, I realized, look, we're nameless and faceless beings, really. Like the face we have is a vehicle. The name we have was not chosen by us. It's just a name tag. Like you could be called Tom. Like it doesn't matter. Like your name doesn't matter. It's just,
which has been decided as a male name. It's like,
that's what I mean. And one of my favorite quotes, which I think, really pulled me to your book, because it's like, it explores this concept so well, is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who says, don't go where the path may lead. Go instead where there's no path and leave a trail. And that's what you're doing in every industry that you're disrupting. And you literally break that down for people so that they can do that in their life 360. And so could you go into some of the most important, because obviously it's going to take ages to go through all 13, but for you, what you feel are the most important?
I'll tell you the first one. And the first one I think was the most important one. And it's that, so basically how the book is laid out is it starts with a common belief and then the disruption to the common belief. So this is the common belief that society holds dear. This is the way it is. And then this is the disruption to that. Like, why is that the way it is? That's just the way you decided. Society has decided it is, and we're going to disrupt it. So the very first one is the common belief is you have to get serious as you grow up. We have to get serious as we grow up. Get your head out of the clouds. Sit down. Be quiet. Don't talk out of turn. It's like, if you want to go to college and shut up and listen. If you want to get a job, then shut up and listen. Like, like get in line, like obey. Like that is like what we've been taught. Like we have to get serious as we grow up. And the disruption is, no, we don't have to get serious as we grow up. We can still live in a childlike state of curiosity, playfulness, and awe, and be a responsible person at the same time, a responsible adult at the same time. We can be both. Like we have again, this society that we live in, all created, make believe, has decided to value productivity and devalue playfulness. Whereas in the container of playfulness is actually where most of the best ideas come from. You think about my businesses, even THINX, my period underwear idea, which is valued at now over 200 million today, is that that would never have come up had I not been in my family 3-legged race, and having fun and just and creating a silly game. And I think that we just the more serious you are, the more wound up you are, the less sort of creative you can be. The more creative, the more open, the more space you have, the more you have space to be sort of imaginative and inventive and see the world through a new lens. And I think that, I talk about in that chapter about how, this guy named Gordon McKenzie, and he was one of the top creative directors at Hallmark, and how he would go to elementary schools to go and just get some creative ideas from elementary school kids, because the kids are the biggest sort of vessels of creativity before we're just piled on all this shame and societal indoctrination before we have nothing left. So he goes to see kids to talk to children about his coming up with creative ideas with them. So the first thing he does is go to kindergartners and he asks them, who here is an artist? And every single kid is leaping off their chairs, freaking out. I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, like waving their arms, freaking out. I'm an artist. And then he was like, awesome. He would go to first graders. Who here is an artist? Maybe half the kids raise their hands, not waving, just kind of straight. By the time he got to sixth grade, who here is an artist? One kid, like putting up their arm, lowered, self-conscious, doesn't want to be called out, because over the course of those 5-6 years, just been beaten down to obey, to sit down and shut up, to be quiet, to stop talking, to stop dreaming, to stop. And you're just like scared, and therefore you just don't have permission anymore. And so what this book is really is like a permission slip to just being exactly who you are in every aspect of your life, and saying fuck it to everything else, because we have one life to live. From the point we graduate college to the point we die, we only have 21,000 days to live. That's it. From age 22 to about 80, maybe we live till 90 or whatever, but the average age is 21,000 days, and that's it. So it's like, what are we going to do with that time? Are we going to spend it getting in line and being scared of what people think? Are we going to go and just live in our pure, unadulterated state of joy and bliss and curiosity, playfulness, and awe? And just like sort of the legacy that we want to leave is just like, leave it like in a fun, better, more fulfilled, more uplifted, more happy, more positive place.
Is there anything you actually do to get yourself in that place every day, like to get yourself in a playful state, or in a creative state, or in a childlike state?
Yeah, I mean, I luckily now have a 1.5-year-old kid, but before having Hero, I think it's so important to create a community. I think of people who are like-minded and who are silly and who are dreamers. And there are dreamers all over the world who really do see the world just like you and I see it. Like, you're like, I'm always like, is this real life? I'm always like, this is hilarious. Is this real life? I'm always making that like, motion. And it's like, it's that you really, and you find, as soon as you find someone who's as lit up, and who you can see by their faces that there's not like this sort of like, you can see the lightness in someone's face. When you see that lit up state, you're like, I would love to cook you dinner. I make dal soup. I have my grandma's dal soup recipe. Come over, make dal soup, coconut rice. I'd love to get to know you and, support you in every way that I can. Never ask, can I pick your brain? Can I take you out for coffee? Can I blah, blah, blah? Take that out of your vocabulary. Always offer your services, offer your support, shout the person out that you want to love on, like about them, make it about them. Oh my God, I have the best person for you to meet. I would love to connect you to that person. By the way, I'd love to have you over for dal soup. I'd love to make you my grandmother's recipe. Oh, and by the way, my friend's cousin works at this at Fast Company. Maybe I can get them to connect with you to write this article, whatever. Like, whatever you can do to give, that's all you need to do to build community. And the minute you build your community of like-minded, lit up beings, you can wade through any painful, awful experience where society tries to take you down, cut you down. People try to like call you names, burn you for witchcraft, like I've experienced. You kind of like get out of it unfazed. Like, you learn, you grow, you're smarter. At the same time, you also are unfazed spiritually, because you have so many like-minded people who are as lit as you around you to sort of hold you, at your highest. And
Love that.
So I think that's so critical, is to really form a community and give and give and give. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote this book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, which is all about give, 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 ask. Give great content, give your services, give your shout out to your people about that person, then ask for something. 3 gives before you ask. And I think when you do that, you will build your business, you'll build your community, you'll build love, you'll build everything. Like, my love, like, fell in love with me. One of the reasons why is because, like, we were at Burning Man, and he, like, his tent was all messed up and he had dust all over his tent, and his bike pedal had broken off his bike. And I basically went and got his bike fixed and fixed his tent and dusted it all out and cleaned all of his stuff. And he was just like, wow, no one's ever done that for me. And he opened himself up a little bit more. It wasn't because that wasn't why, but he was just like, I just, cared. And like, I think if you care about someone beyond just being like, oh, like, how can I like get this person, you're just like, I want to give and I want to give, I want to give and I want to offer, I want to support you. It's just like, it will come back. And so never, ever, ever say, can I pick your brain? Can I take it for coffee? Can I? Because it's just, get rid of that, because that will never work.
I love that. Yeah, most definitely. There's something I read that was actually in line with what you're saying the other day, which is life gives to givers and takes from takers. And when I read that, I because doing this podcast, it's allowed me to connect with influencers. It's been a great platform to do that. But then as time goes on, I realize, hang on, like I'm naturally now listening to what it is they need help with. And then because I've spoken to so many people before that, in my mind straight away, it's like, oh, this person would be good to introduce to that person. Oh, they're working on that project. Oh, I remember speaking to this guy. Like, and then you do build up a community, and those people know you for being someone who's willing to give.
Exactly.
And you can see takers from a mile away because they 100%. drop those questions. They want to take pictures. They want to go out for food. They want to they want something. Like, it's not, you can give something. And I think you said this as well before on a different conversation where you might feel like, oh, what can I give? Like, this person's making millions or billions. You can give your time. You can give presence. Like, one thing I've realized this year or last year, biggest lesson I took away is one of the most important things is presence. Like, not just hearing someone, but listening. Like, your body language changes, your like eye contact. It's in this fast-paced world, it's very scarce and rare to have someone who's looking at you and asking you, how was your day? What did you get up to? Oh, really? That happened? Oh, tell me more about that. Most people are like, oh, what happened? Sorry, what was it? They're not really, it's like, so
100%. And I completely agree with you. And it's just like, presence is like the new gold, and your time and attention. Yeah, for sure. And, my husband, Andrew, started this really, really cool organization for men called the Junto. And it's basically a not so secret club for emotional mastery and modern masculinity. And it's a place for men to come together and really master their emotions, because men have not been taught to be emotional beings, and have not been taught to really express themselves in their core, because men have been taught to suppress, to be strong, to provide for, to this and to that, and to really are pressing down all of their emotions, and it comes out in the form of violence. And talk about, in my book I even talk about how it is more acceptable for men to be violent than to be emotional. And then Andrew has really created a beautiful solution for men to really find a safe space for them to be really, really emotional. So definitely check out JUNTO.com. You can read about it. It's really cool.
Most definitely. Yeah. And there's actually
presence is one of the big things that he talks about constantly over and over again.
It is most definitely, especially, as I said, in this fast-paced world, especially in London. I don't know if you've been to London before, but traveling on the tube, on the underground, people are so quick to just pull out their phone. It's unreal. They want to run away from where they are, what their life is. Playing a game, watching Netflix, doing something. And when I speak to other people who have traveled from outside the UK and have come in, and obviously tourists, and they're like, this is weird. No one talks to each other. Everyone wants to rush. Like where I am, you'd be considered weird for not talking to each other. Like, we continue conversation. We're heading in a similar direction. Like, why would you pull out your phone? That's rude. But here, you'd be weird for speaking to a stranger. It doesn't add up. And is it this? I'm assuming is the same in like fast-paced cities like LA.
It's pretty similar in New York, where everyone's on their phones playing games or doing whatever. But what you realize is if you start a conversation with someone, a lot of people are readily available to talk back, just to share back. Because there's oftentimes people are just waiting for an opener, and so it's more of a way of dealing with social anxiety, is to be like, I'm busy. But the minute someone's like, hey, I like your jacket. Oh, thanks. Oh, my mom gave it to, or whatever. Like, I got, oh, where are you off to? Oh, I'm going. Like, the minute that you engage first is actually the minute that they will actually want to engage. I think I think a lot of people just don't know how to engage anymore and are too afraid to be rejected, or too, shame. Like rejection and shame play such a big role in our society that people would rather not be rejected by someone. Like if you talk to someone, they're like, and then they don't talk back. You're like, I don't even want to deal with that rejection, so I'm not even going to engage at all. Versus being like, I'll talk to like 10 people and maybe like 5 respond and the other 5 don't. But at least I had 5 interesting conversations instead of just being on my phone and talking to nobody. Like it just becomes a thing where you become more comfortable getting a little bit of a whatever, like a reaction where you're like, and you're like, cool, whatever. You're not affected by it. But so many people are so affected by not getting responded to, in a way that they feel good about.
Yeah, most definitely. So just on the topic of disruption, is there a 14th disruption? If there was a 14th one, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think it's like, I think first of all, I think I cover pretty much holistically every aspect of our lives. But maybe that could be the 14th one, which is, disrupting sort of engaging, like how do we engage with others? And actually my husband's writing a book called Social Flow about that, but that would be a good segue into that. But yeah, I think it's really, I think we forgot how to engage. And I think that would be a really important disruption to create for society. It's just to be like, oh, let's put our phones away. Like I think for us at dinner, we always, when we have dinner parties, which we have often gatherings, we always put our phones away. And then we have like, we create one single conversation where we have one topic where no one's like having small conversations around the table. It's one conversation, all of us together in a room, and everyone has an opportunity to contribute, and creates that real bonded community experience. And I think when you create intentionality in everything that you do, which we do as a community, you can, the stuff that you care about starts to shift, and like the way you are with others and entering situations that are uncomfortable starts to become like, cool. I mean, I already have my core tribe. Anyone else is gravy. And if I get a rejection, like it's cool. Like I have my people who love me so much and who I love back, and nothing can faze me after that.
Yeah, it's important to have your tribe. Like one of the things that I realized through a conversation with a friend is that we really have, in my experience anyway, 2 families in this world. One which we're born into, don't really have a choice. That's who you grow up with. And then one that you have to go out and find, which is your tribe, which are your, if you will, dreamers, and the people that vibe on your level of energy, that you can connect with, that will support you through thick and thin, who are doing a similar sort of thing to push your mission. So it's easier now these days to find that on social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing. But again, it comes back to having the courage, having the balls to engage and to bring value to people, so they feel like, oh, okay, like this person's doing this type of thing, I want to stay connected to them. So it's just using those platforms and those methods in the right way, rather than just I guess for yourself, just to show off the newest thing, the newest car that you've brought.
Exactly.
But just
it's like how many angles of your face and of your body can I look of you of Instagram? It's like people who just like, it's like nonstop themselves. It's just like, why can't you either include something in the image or share a story about someone else? Like support one of your friends, shout out someone, like something where it feels, it's not just like, got a new shade of lipstick. It's just like, like say something that really matters to you. Like that's important.
Most definitely. So before we get into the final few questions, a bit of a lighthearted question. Is there any funny stories of you and your twin sister?
Any stories of me and my twin sister? Yeah. And then just cause it's now 4:20. And so we're like a little bit and I have a 4:30. So
cool.
yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. Is that cool?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was, funny story of me and my sister. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we constantly are mischievous. We've taken tests for each other in high school. We have like, you know, like, like kissed the same boy. I mean, just like done silly, fun things that that just are just mischievous and fun, and play pranks because we're twins. And um but yeah, I think she is one of my greatest inspirations as a creative, and I think I'm hers. And so it's just a really nice, like, amazing thing to have someone that you can be like, oh, I'm doing this, what do you think? Oh my god, I love it, what do you think? Oh my god, I'm doing this thing, and what do you think? And it's just like we both are just like, yeah, and we're like consummate cheerleaders and champions of each other, so that we can, again, like, create constantly, because we're always like bouncing ideas. It's never like, it's always a very productive experience when I spend with her. So it's great.
I love that. Yeah. So just to get into the last two questions and really quickly, if you had a microphone and the whole world could hear you, what's the one message you'd share with them?
Yeah. I mean, that's like it's kind of like the billboard question, right? I would say, I think Dan Pink had a really good one his answer to that. Remember his answer?
No.
It was like, Dan Pink's answer to that question was, assume positive intent, which is the idea is that, like, always assume that people are approaching a thing positively. And if you do, then you won't be so offended all the time. So I think that's a good one. But for me, I would say, like, find the place in yourself that lights you up, and just operate from that place, from your lit up space. Because when you do, the world will shift, because you can like bring that light inside out. But the minute you're not lit up or in alignment with yourself, I mean, obviously it's like a longer thing. It's more than one statement. So, but I think the more you're not in alignment, the more you can't spread light. You're basically like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so I think the more aligned you are, the more lit up you are, the more you can shine a light on others. So I think maybe it's like, maybe the word is like, find your alignment in light.
And the last question is, with everything, all the crazy journeys that you've been on so far, and that you probably will go on for the remainder of your life, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
The legacy I want to leave behind is just like like helping liberate humans to be more who they are. I think that's legacy, and leave the world just a happier place, more grounded and more filled with trees that aren't getting flushed down the toilet.
You're already on your way to do that. So no, thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom and your journey. I mean, if people want to find out more about you, about your book and all that sort of stuff that you're getting up to, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can find my book. You could go to disrupther.co and you can watch the video, my book launch video, where I'm being birthed out of a vagina. But otherwise, you can find on Amazon, disrupt-her. And you can read more about me at mikiagrawal.com, and definitely find me on Instagram at Miki Agrawal. If you can put it in the show notes, that'd be great.
Yeah, most definitely will do. No, thank you so much, Miki, and look forward to connecting again sometime soon.
Same.